Hi, I'm Bruce Maples, publisher of Forward Kentucky, and today we're joined by John Peace, who is a farmer and a businessman and a salesman and a political consultant from Southwest Virginia. He wrote an article recently about how Democrats can do a better job of winning in rural areas. And I found the article really fascinating, so I wanted to invite him on the show to see what he had to say. Before we get to John, let me remind you that if you like this video, please give it a like below. And if you aren't already following Forward Kentucky's YouTube channel and our podcasts, I would invite you to subscribe to both of them. We have lots of interesting shows coming up, and now's the time to get involved and to get subscribed. So let's get on to John Peace.
This episode is brought to you by the Metropolitan Housing Coalition.
Did you know that nearly 1 in 4 Louisville households are energy burdened? The Metropolitan Housing Coalition's Every Home program continues to build bridges between affordable housing and affordable utilities. No more than 6% of your income should go toward energy bills, but many families pay far more. High energy bills can force families to choose between keeping the lights on and buying groceries, a choice no one should have to make. Together, we can make every home safe, healthy, and affordable. Learn more and get involved at everyhomelou.org.
So we're here today with John Peace, who is from Big Stone Gap, Virginia, and is a farmer and a political consultant. Believe it or not, those two things together. John, welcome to Moving Kentucky Forward.
Glad to be here. Of course, I'm all the way on the opposite side of Kentucky from you. I'm within 20 miles of Kentucky. Right, Big Stone Gap, if you don't know the geography, we're probably about 20 miles from Kentucky border. Wise County is my home county, and it's right across the mountain from Harlan County, Kentucky. Whitesburg, Kentucky is pretty close to me.
So you're pretty much right in Appalachia.
Oh, absolutely. If you looked out my back door right now, there's about a 1,200-foot mountain you're going to be staring at.
Yep.
We're in the heart of the Virginia coal fields. Wise County historically has been one of the largest coal producers in the Appalachia region. That's our history. We were in a little valley in Wise County where there was some farming, and like I said, there was 2 or 3 dairy farms back in the day. We were one of the last ones left up until 1997.
So let me explain why this interview. You wrote an article about how Dems can win in rural areas or with rural voters. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated by the fact that you were both a farmer and a political consultant. And so first, I want you to give the background about why you're both of those things. And then secondly, I want you to talk about how can we begin to reach rural voters and win again in the red parts of our states.
Okay, let me give you a little bit of my background. Okay, you can tell how old I am. I'm 56 years old. But when I was 33 years old, I was the youngest elected chairman of the Board of Supervisors in Wise County as a Democrat. We had a Democratic board. So in my lifetime, we went from kind of a very plural 50-50, Union Blue or you were company red. And this little thing in 2003 came out, and I was elected in 2004 and was on the Board of Supervisors till 2008. And I'm sure you might be aware of this. This little sticker started popping up, Friends of Coal. And we started yelling towards the Virginia Dems, our state party back then in 2005, 2006. You really need to listen to us. There's some things going on there, very unique. And Friends of Coal, if you know that, was a cultural campaign, wasn't a political campaign. And what that did was what Mega did in 2016. It changed the dynamics. Used to, in the coal fields, you were Union Blue or Company Red, which it meant you were bottom versus top. You were either a company family or a union worker family. Mm-hmm. Then that Friends of Coal came out, and then things became left versus right. But, we kept talking to the state party. And of course, we felt very frustrated, unheard. And, here we are in 2025. my home county voted 83% for Trump.
Mm.
83. And my hometown voted, Big Stone Gap, population close to 6,000, voted 85% for Trump.
Mm.
Now, here's the good news, and this is where talk about my business partner, Doug Mullins. He is currently a Democrat who's elected as our Commissioner of Revenue. He's won 9 elections in Megaland.
Mm.
And
Wow.
that same day, the same this past November, that we voted 85% for Trump in my hometown, we elected a gay Democrat to a town council.
Wow.
Okay. So, you hear some of these national political leaders talk about, oh, we're racist, we're fascists, or we're uneducated. Well, how does that happen? You vote 85%, and those same voters go vote for a Democrat locally.
Yeah.
But there's some commonality. You go to other areas and you see these where you see a Democrat win, and you look at what they do, and for years, you hear the Democratic Party talk about we did a focus group, and these issues are the most important issues to voters. You hear it all the time. They spend a lot of money on this. But it's kind of like if you've ever watched the movie Moneyball, we're asking the wrong questions. They're
Hmm.
going, what issues are important to voters? But the question we got to start asking is who people vote for. And when you do that research, and there's Brookings Institute's done research on this, Pew has research on this. When you ask that question, issues are way down the line, almost
Hmm.
seventh or eighth. They vote for people first. And if you look at candidates that do well, they sold themselves first. They didn't sell their issues. And you hear this all the time, a complaint if you in rural America about the Democratic Party, they'll flat out say, well, Democratic Party is a party of issues and not about party of people.
Hmm.
And we do love our issues. We're very passionate about our issues. But one thing like my business partner, Doug Mullins, will talk about is the way you win, you got to sell yourself first. You got to put your issues in your back pocket because people vote for people.
Okay. So, why did you go into political consulting? I think there's a story there.
Yes. Well, actually the day after the Harris election, and we voted 83% in my county. We met at what we call Huddle House. I don't know whether y'all have Huddle House. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
a Waffle House. Okay. I didn't know if they went up in Kentucky, Louisville. Doug and I met, and we were just so frustrated that some of the things we were telling the party for 15 years, they just won't listen.
Hmm.
And we thought the best course was, and Napoleon Hill is a great writer about self-help and stuff. Nobody ever appreciates something that's free.
Right.
So we actually said, well, we'll just form a company and start charging. So maybe they'll pay attention.
Hmm.
And when I say charging, we're not really charging, but we formed a company just to get that attention, to get that banner.
Yeah. Well,
And
and you
yeah,
got my attention. So,
yes,
okay. So, I understand what you're saying about you have to sell yourself first.
yes,
You can't lead with issues. So let's put that into practical terms. You've
yeah,
got a candidate running in your hometown for mayor or
okay.
whatever, or for the state legislature. Let's talk
Uh,
about that. What would you tell them? How would you advise them to begin their campaign, and how would you advise them to continue their campaign?
Great question. Okay. We've done candidate training here in Virginia, and last night I was on a video Zoom call just like this, training 6 candidates in Southern Indiana on
Okay.
that same question. Okay, of course they're running for district or more of a state representative, and the one thing we ask candidates to do, there's 2 questions you got to honestly really think about. One is why are you running for office? And then why somebody should vote for you versus your opponent.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, most of the time they'll talk about, oh, I'm fighting for democracy, or some of the issues come up. I'm pro-choice. We got to fight for women's rights, or we got to fight for this rights and stuff. But we add a little caveat to that. You got to answer those 2 questions without talking about issues. Why are you running for office?
Mm.
Okay. Personally, why are you running for office? in Virginia, one of the best answers to that, this young lady, she was running near the Lynchburg area. Her name's Joy. I said, "Why are you personally running for office?" She held up her cell phone and it was a picture of her 8-year-old son. She goes, "I want to make District 41 a better place for my son to live."
Hmm.
What a great answer. That's what you need to start telling the voters. Not about issues, but why you want to run. And that's to make your community a better place to live, a better place to live for your children, your grandchildren. And then also personal reasons why you are a better person for that delegate or for that mayor's position than your opponent. And we just had one delegate, and she did such a great social media ad, and it's a little video and stuff. And that reporter asked her, "What makes you better than your opponent?" She goes, "Because my opponent doesn't pass bills. I will pass bills and do the job."
Hmm.
So, just stuff like that. I have a 30-year background in sales. Been very fortunate enough to go to undergraduate and graduate school. Did a lot of data analytics and stuff. Had companies send me to sales training at Carnegie School of Salesmanship. I've been up to Hershey at salesmanship. And one thing I feel very frustrated with the Democratic Party is these candidates need training in salesmanship,
Hmm.
not marketing. It's about selling yourself first because
Okay.
people vote for candidates. But I know you ran what in 2014 or 2014 for Louisville?
2014.
Okay. People vote for people. They vote for people that are like them, they feel comfortable with, that they feel will listen to them and be most like them and help them. And when you look at the research, issues get way down the line. They'll vote for somebody they don't even agree with the issues if they really feel comfortable with that
Right.
candidate.
So you mentioned trying to tell the Virginia Democratic Party some of these things.
Mhm.
And what was the response you got? I mean, did you get any response?
None. The first person that actually paid attention to us was our chair of, we have congressional districts that's underneath the state party.
Right.
And our congressional district is Southwest Virginia. It's about the size of New Jersey, territory wise.
Right.
Her name's Rebecca Daly. She was the first person in the party that was anywhere up that ladder that even paid us attention or would reply back to an email. And we pitched it to her. She has been so supportive. We're integrating some of that into. Well, she's the one that's lined up this candidate training in her
Hmm.
district, so we can sit down. Another thing, most of these first-time candidates. Okay, when you run in a district that just voted 70% for Trump or just voted 80% for Trump, okay, the state party gives you no money. The
Right.
national party is going to give you no money. You're on your own, and most of these candidates have never been in sales. Okay. Now it's easy for a lawyer that's sales. That's all they're doing, selling. They're selling a jury, stuff like that. But most of our candidates are not lawyers, and most of them are not business people. It's been in sales. So we just feel that this candidate training, just helping them, explain the psychology of sales, explain how people make decisions, and there's a science to it. And we're just trying to bring the science and math, kind of like Moneyball did to baseball. To there's reasons why in sales we do certain things, reasons why you pitch certain things, and we're just trying to bring that down to the local level.
I I like the idea, but I'm thinking about my own race.
Hmm.
And unlike some salespeople where you call on a customer maybe 3 or 4 times and finally get to make a sale, uh, for many of these races, I've got one shot. I'm on their doorstep. I've got one chance to make that sale. So how do I frame that? What do I say? What do I talk about? What do I listen to? How do I
Okay.
do that?
Okay. If Doug was on this call with me, he's won 9 elections in Megaland as a Democrat, and he's a listed Democrat.
Right.
Okay. He'll talk about the only issue that's important is the issue that's important to that voter that's standing right in front of you.
Okay.
Okay. Doesn't even matter if it pertains to your job or what you're running for. If he's got an issue on zoning, okay. And here's how I pitch it now. I tell candidates, I can't put words in your mouth. You got to customize this. But here's what I would do. If you're knocking on that door or meeting that person for the first time, and we run here in Virginia as delegates. So, I'm John Peace. I'm running for delegate in District 45. What can I do for you today to get your vote. So you pull that issue out of them. What's important to them? What can I do for you today to get you to commit to vote for me?
Yeah.
And it's so important. You got to pull their issue out. It
Well,
might
but
be job.
you also made the sale pitch,
Yes.
not just what's important to you, but what can I do for you that will get you to vote for me
And commit.
and commit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because in sales, we always talk about you're always closing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
once you close, shut up. Don't lose it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
here's another thing we tell the candidates, and this seems so silly, but it's so important. It's a psychological thing. And I tell candidates, carry a notebook with you. If they give you an issue, you open it up and you start writing it down. Okay. If they verbally commit, statistics will show you you have a 60% chance of them actually doing that.
Right.
Okay. While you're writing it down, if you'll ask them to put their email address or a contact telephone number to physically get them to write on that notebook, that goes up to 80%.
Wow.
And if you've ever bought a car, you already see some of these tactics.
Oh, yeah.
Write down a price. If I can meet that physically writing and say you've informally made a contract in your mind. You write down, well, if you get to this certain price, I'll buy that car. You write it down, and then they come back and they meet that price. It's a done deal. You've made the sale.
Yeah.
And
This is
that's
this is good stuff.
well, I
And
hope so.
and I have to tell you, I've done candidate training, I've been in candidate training, and you're right, it's basic, but it's stuff that doesn't get talked about a lot.
You can't get a degree in salesmanship. You can't go to now you can get marketing, but marketing's not salesmanship.
Right.
And like I say, I was in it 30 years. I probably wasted the first 5 or 10 years before I got to the secret of it's not about the product, it's about selling yourself.
Right.
Okay. And the best salesman, you never know he's selling you. And the best campaigners are the ones you never know that's campaigning.
That's excellent. So you said your congressional district leader is listening to you.
Yes.
What are they doing about recruiting? Are they able to recruit in such a red district?
Okay. This year's Rebecca and the whole crew. Now it's not just her, but the whole the leadership of Congressional District 9 is what it is, has done a wonderful job. We actually have somebody running in every House delegate in Virginia this year.
Wow.
Okay.
Excellent.
And some of those districts voted 85% for Trump. So you know what a challenge that is.
Yeah.
And they truly, and I hope to write an article because I hope you interview some of these candidates really need to be patted on the back for being part of democracy. I mean, they're giving up a big part of their life, financially, time wise, just to make democracy work. And, I wrote in my article when the Democratic Party decided to abandon the 50 state plan and to campaign in every district, the terrible side effect is having Republicans win 80-20. You don't realize what that did to them. They've painted themselves into a corner with the
No.
most extreme part of their party. And in the
Yes.
same way, if I was a Democrat winning 80-20, I have painted myself into a corner with the most extreme parts of my party.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the only way I'm going to lose my job is to get primaried.
Right.
And yeah, if I look, if I'm a Republican, if I'm not mega enough, I'll get primaried. I'll lose my job, even though I won my last election 80-20.
Right. Right.
So that's why you got this extremism.
One of the things that we struggle with in this state, and I assume it's true for yours as well, is this rural urban divide.
Yeah.
We have the blue dots in the red states, which is Louisville, Lexington, to some extent Northern Kentucky, and to some extent any town with a college. And so it just exacerbates this idea that they're not us. They don't understand us. They're not part of us. So give me one more time, give me a suggestion on how to deal with that. How does a candidate, say from Louisville, who's running for the Senate, running for U.S. Senate, so it's a statewide race, how do they talk to rural voters, or do they do it any differently? Is it, if this selling yourself is the idea, maybe they use the same approach everywhere?
Oh, it works everywhere. Sales is pretty universal on that part. Now, y'all have a wonderful governor. He knows how to talk rural. And we watch a lot of his videos, his YouTube channel and stuff.
Hmm.
When you, the last one I just watched just a few days ago, when he comes to Eastern Kentucky, which is red as you get, as red as Southwest Virginia, when you talk about good jobs for Eastern Kentucky, that's not a Democrat or Republican issue.
Right.
And it's universal. And if you notice, he doesn't talk about issues. He talks about some universal rights, like good jobs or just health care, good health care. And, if I was telling something, and here's another thing, if you're from Louisville and you're campaigning in Eastern Kentucky, you definitely need to talk to locals first and let them know the lay of the land. I'll give you, for example, we just talked to our governor, running for governor candidate, on how you run. When you talk about education funding, you got to make it towards the kids. Don't make it just all about teachers getting pay raises. You've really got to focus that towards the children and how it's going to affect the children with a better education. It's not that we talk that different, but just because sometimes when we hear urban people, what they say is not what we hear.
Mm.
And we just asking them Democrats that want to come down the room, just give us a yell. We'll kind of massage your verbiage. I'll be glad to.
Yeah.
And some there's catchphrases, and I'll give you for example. I'm knocking on doors and stuff. This is one Doug and I we really get to our candidates if they're not born and raised in their own district. And say they've moved to that district and stuff. The second question, I'll guarantee you'll get asked in rural America, where are you from?
Yeah.
Okay, that is a very loaded question. You think it's very harmless, it's chit chat, but no, in rural America, there it's a very real thing, stranger danger. It's part of our DNA. We in rural America we do not have a good history of strangers coming in our area and doing good things for us. It's
Hmm.
usually been the opposite.
Yep.
You got to pivot from that if you're working that area. You got to talk about if I'm telling you you're coming down Southwest Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, when they ask you where you're from, and well, I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, but my family came Scotch Irish, just like here. Or my family came, you got to get some unity. You got to get past that Louisville part and get to something that connects to them locally. Or I have family in Eastern Kentucky.
Well, I
I
could.
hope that answered your question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I was thinking about I'm continually thinking about if I was running, what would I do?
Yeah.
Probably what I would go is tell them my story from when I was my first job as a high school band director in a small town in Tennessee that was basically all driven by milk production, dairy farming. And the first meeting, literally the first
Yeah.
rehearsal I had with this group of high school kids was, okay, we're going to practice Tuesday and Thursday afternoons from 3 to 5 or whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
And every hand in the room went up.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the problem? And they said, well, we have to go milk
Yeah.
and after school. And I said, well, can it wait? And of course, that just showed them how stupid I was because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. So
Uh-huh.
you're doing this work and you're talking to these candidates. Do you think it's possible to have to increase the number of Democrats running in today's world in red parts of our states?
I think absolutely. If the party would make a consensus effort to just compete, and it's more than just throwing money. I know right now the Democratic Party, has a new mission that they're going, dedicate so much money to every state and to every district and stuff. But it's more than that. We need a seat at the table to talk about messaging and talk about what we need rural Virginia, rural Kentucky, rural America.
Right.
We don't need urbans go, oh, well, y'all need another government program. Andy Bashir made a great comment the other day. He said, if you have a good job, you don't need these government programs. And that's what rural America wants. We just want to be part of the 21st century economy. We
Hmm.
want good jobs with benefits. So don't come down here just offering another government program to us. Come down here and talk about economic development and about getting us good jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
John
Oh,
Peace.
you're thinking pretty hard.
No, I just, I could probably do this for another 2 hours, but that's not what we need to do.
I know.
Uh, I'm really glad to have had this interview. I think you gave a lot of good points that we are going to have to think about and implement. And plus, I love the fact that you've got the background, and your partner in your business is winning races as a Democrat.
Yes.
Uh, all of that. So I'm really glad we did this. I definitely want to have you on again later in the year when we're looking at who's running
Yeah.
in the next year. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, well, I appreciate the opportunity to get our message out. I'm gonna send you some of our candidate training stuff or PowerPoint and stuff. Love
Yep,
for you to look at it. And we take critiques all the time. I tell people all the time, this is where my biggest frustration with Democrat Party is. Ted Lasso is probably one of my favorite TV shows that was on
sure.
Apple TV. And his quote, be curious and not judgmental. And so many times I think the urban Democrats get judgmental instead of just being curious and ask us, why are you voting that way?
Hmm.
We'll tell you.
Yep, yep.
And be curious and not judgmental. And that's why you have to run your campaign.
So, do you have a website for your company?
Yes, we do. Yourtopicsllc.com is what we set up as far as the business.
Okay.
And I'll send you some of that information. Maybe you can tag on with the video.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description. Is it UR Topics?
Yes, URTOPIX LLC.com.
Okay, and is that all LLC.com? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
One of the other, and this is a little side note, one of the things we did was the 3 Clicks initiative where we're working with our local Democrat parties on the reason why we got your topics as a title was we first started just setting up Facebook pages to share news because we're in a newspaper desert. I'm sure you know all about the part of some of your great work you're doing is just getting news out.
Right.
And you take Southwest Virginia, we have no newspapers, we have no newspaper reporters.
Mm,
And see, we're in a newspaper desert. And one of my presentations, I talk about the Romeo Club downtown. And I don't know, you have Romeo clubs, y'all probably call them something else. Romeo stands for Retired Old Men Eating Out. And in Big Stone Gap, it's Hardee's downtown Big Stone.
right.
Well, the first half of my life, if you went down there and sat around the Romeo Club, they talked politics, but it was all local or county.
Okay.
The last 25 years of my life, guess what they're talking about? Fox News.
Yeah.
They're talking about something that happened in Seattle or Washington D.C. or Atlanta. They're not talking local because there's no local newspaper coverage. They
Right.
don't even know local politics. State politics is very rare.
Wow. Yeah. So that's another thing that we need to be doing for sure.
Oh yeah, just sharing real and balanced news. Just and
Okay.
let people decide for themselves.
Yep.
But when you only get one side of the story, that's what you're going to believe.
Yeah. Absolutely. John Peace, thank you so much for your time. And I will include a link in the description to your website, and we'll definitely be talking again.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Maples.